All right, family. Pull up a chair. This one is loaded. Lock the door, put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and cancel whatever you thought you were doing tonight. Because what just dropped on the Stefon Diggs docket is the kind of update that rearranges the entire chessboard. I am telling you right now, Stefon Diggs is in trouble. Not the kind of trouble a publicist can spin. Not the kind of trouble a highlight reel can bury. This is the kind of trouble where a federal magistrate looks at your paperwork, looks at the accuser's paperwork, and quietly starts sharpening the pen. And if you have been following the Stefon Diggs and Christopher Blake Griffith saga from the jump the way we have, you already know we called every twist before the cameras did. Tonight we are cashing that check. Every prediction we made in the summer episodes, every hunch, every whispered theory in the comments, every watch this moment, is now sitting on a federal court docket in black and white. And the docket does not lie the way publicists lie. Let me set the room. Christopher Blake Griffith, the man the internet keeps trying to reduce to a footnote, is the one who dragged Stefon Diggs into a Maryland courthouse and refused to blink. Cardi B, who tied her name and her heart and half her album cycle to Stefon Diggs, is now watching her boyfriend's legal team squirm on a public docket. And Stefon Diggs himself, the NFL Golden Boy, the Patriots prize signing, the man who was supposed to be untouchable, is finding out in real time what happens when the person on the other side of the lawsuit is not intimidated by his last name, his bank account, or his brother. That last part matters, because Stefon Diggs has spent his entire adult life being the biggest man in every room he walked into. Christopher Blake Griffith walked into the courtroom and made Stefon Diggs the second biggest. Here is where we are as of the last 48 hours. TMZ, and yes, the same TMZ that has been doing what I can only describe as tabloid mixed martial arts on Cardi B this entire summer, has confirmed that the man accusing Stefon Diggs of assaulting him inside his Maryland home has been ordered by the court to turn over his complete Instagram DM history with the NFL star. 14 days. That is the runway. 14 days for Christopher Blake Griffith to hand over every message, every voice note, every heart emoji, every you up, that ever passed between him and Stefon Diggs. And baby, if you think that is where the order stopped, sit down. Because it is not. This ruling is not a paper cut on Christopher Blake Griffith. This ruling is a scalpel, and it is cutting in one direction, and Stefon Diggs is the one bleeding. The same judge also ordered Christopher Blake Griffith to hand over every document tied to his travel to and from Maryland the weekend of May 20th through May 23rd. The exact weekend Griffith says the alleged assault took place at Stefon Diggs' home. Flight receipts, luggage tags, hotel bookings, rideshare records. Every text exchange between Griffith and Stefon Diggs. Every text where Griffith so much as mentioned Stefon Diggs to a friend. Every DM, every screenshot, every scrap of paper trail. The court wants it laid on the table. And here is why that is not the problem the Stefon Diggs camp thinks it is. Christopher Blake Griffith has been telegraphing for months that he has the receipts. He has been telling his own followers he has them. He has been quietly building the fortress while Stefon Diggs has been out here posting Super Bowl selfies. Now here is where the internet is about to trip and fall on its own headline. A lot of people are running around saying, see, Christopher Blake Griffith is losing. The court is squeezing him. Sweetheart, put the popcorn down and read the ruling. Because the exact same paperwork that ordered Griffith to hand over his DMs also did something that has Stefon Diggs' lawyers reaching for the aspirin. That same judge denied Stefon Diggs' motion for sanctions against Christopher Blake Griffith. Denied. Rejected. Stamped and returned to sender. If you know how federal magistrates operate, you know they do not deny sanction motions lightly. A denied sanction motion is a signal. A signal to the record. A signal to the higher court. A signal to opposing counsel that the person requesting the sanctions is on shaky ground themselves. Let me translate that for the people in the back. Stefon Diggs went to the court and said, Your Honor, please punish this man. He hasn't given me everything I want. Slap him. Fine him. Sanction him. And the judge, calmly, looked at Stefon Diggs' request and said no. Not today. Not on this docket. Not with this evidence. And that is the moment I want you to circle in red marker in your notebook, because that is the crack in the wall. That crack is where the entire Stefon Diggs defense starts to leak. That crack is where a jury, 6 months from now, is going to look at the timeline and say, wait a minute, the accuser gave you what he had, and you demanded more, and the judge said no. Why did the judge say no? That is the question the Stefon Diggs team has to answer, and they have no answer. You want to know why that ruling matters? Because Stefon Diggs himself has been sitting on a mountain of documents that Christopher Blake Griffith's legal team has been requesting for months. Bank records, financial statements, endorsement contracts. The full receipts on Stefon Diggs' claim that Christopher Blake Griffith's accusations caused him irreparable damage and cost him money. And Stefon Diggs has not turned any of it over. Not one page, not one line, not one number. Because, and I will say this plain, Stefon Diggs cannot show a loss he never suffered. At the time the accusations went public, Stefon Diggs was at the peak of his career. Peak. Not the pit. The peak. So if he claims Christopher Blake Griffith ruined his income, the ledger has to prove it. And the ledger does not. The ledger says Stefon Diggs' checks kept clearing. The ledger says the Patriots kept paying. The ledger says the endorsements kept flowing. So where is the damage, Stefon Diggs? Show us the loss on the balance sheet. You cannot. That is the point. Christopher Blake Griffith's team asked Stefon Diggs for 4 specific pieces of financial disclosure. 4. Stefon Diggs has produced none of them. And yet Stefon Diggs is the one running to the judge asking for sanctions? Baby, that is called projection. That is called the loudest voice in the room being the guiltiest voice in the room. And that judge saw straight through it. That is why the sanction request got walked to the door. In federal court, when one side refuses discovery for 4 straight items and then turns around and demands sanctions on the opposing party, the judge is not on your side anymore. The judge is now watching you the way a security guard watches a shoplifter at the exit door. That is where Stefon Diggs is standing right now, under the light, being watched, and pretending nobody noticed. Now moving on to why I keep telling you both these men are hiding something. Because they are. Stefon Diggs is lying. Christopher Blake Griffith is lying. And Cardi B got played. I hate it for her, and I love it for her at the same time, because she is going to come out of this the wiser woman. But the tuition was steep. The grown folks in the group chat already warned Cardi B months ago. Never swear for a man you did not raise. Never swear he is straight. Never swear he is faithful. Never swear he is anything. Because the moment you swear, the truth walks in the door with a smile and hands you the receipt. And Cardi B swore for Stefon Diggs. She swore on live. She swore in interviews. She swore in comment sections. And now? Now Cardi B has unfollowed the man, deleted the couple photos, gone quiet on the very love story she was posting 6 months ago. Sprint, Cinderella, sprint. That is what I have to say to Cardi B, sprint. Do not look back. Do not respond to the group chat. Do not answer the paparazzi. Sprint until you are all the way clear. But let us go back to the court, because there is a part of this case that the mainstream write-ups keep glossing over, and it is the part that convinces me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that something went down inside Stefon Diggs' Maryland home. Weeks ago, Stefon Diggs' own camp released a fragment of video from the weekend in question. A short clip. Grainy. Blurry. The image was cropped tight enough that you could barely make out faces, but you could hear the voices. And what you heard on that clip was Christopher Blake Griffith being cornered by multiple people accusing him of stealing something. And you could hear Christopher Blake Griffith, clear as day, pushing back, denying it, saying, "What did I take? I did not take anything. That was not a man caught in the act. That was a man being framed on tape." And whoever hit record on that phone did Christopher Blake Griffith a favor without meaning to. Because the audio of a man denying an accusation in real time, in a crowded room, with multiple voices pressing him, is the audio of a setup, not a confession. Here is the reading of the room. Christopher Blake Griffith walked into that house on Stefon Diggs' dime. Something happened inside that house that Christopher Blake Griffith was not comfortable with. Whether it was the alleged bedroom demand Griffith has described in his countersuit, whether it was a fight, whether it was a proposition Griffith turned down, something occurred. And when Christopher Blake Griffith made it known he was not going to play along, the yes men circle around Stefon Diggs rewrote the room in real time. They flipped the accusation. They pointed at him. They accused him of theft. Because if Christopher Blake Griffith walked out of that house and went straight to the police with an assault claim, the counter-narrative was already loaded. He stole from us. That is not paranoia. That is choreography. That is a rehearsed defense mechanism. That is what people who have done this before do the second time they do it. And here is the part that seals it for me. The hotel where the second incident took place. The alleged beating Christopher Blake Griffith says was orchestrated a week after the first encounter. That hotel already settled with Griffith out of court. Settled. Quietly. Terms sealed. Then Stefon Diggs, Stefon Diggs' own brother, settled the $10 million lawsuit Christopher Blake Griffith filed against him. Settled. Terms sealed. 2 separate settlements. 2 separate parties writing checks to make Christopher Blake Griffith go away. Now you tell me, if Christopher Blake Griffith was making up a fairy tale, why is everyone around Stefon Diggs paying to have him sign a non-disclosure? People do not pay for lies. People pay to bury truth. And that math is not mathing in Stefon Diggs' favor. That math is the math a jury is going to do in about 90 seconds of deliberation, and Stefon Diggs' lawyers know it. Here is the receipt on that. When TMZ published the DM order on July 29, 2026, they framed it as a headline blow against Christopher Blake Griffith. And I get it. TMZ wants clicks the same way we all want clicks. But when you actually read the docket, the story is not accuser cornered. The story is accuser complies, defendant refuses. Christopher Blake Griffith has already turned over 100 pages of text previously. Christopher Blake Griffith has already handed over the earlier discovery batch. Christopher Blake Griffith is the one who has been running toward the paperwork, while Stefon Diggs has been running from it. And any lawyer in America will tell you the same thing. The party running toward the paperwork is almost never the party lying about the underlying facts. Liars stall. Liars object. Liars file for extensions. Christopher Blake Griffith has not stalled. He has produced. Meanwhile, Stefon Diggs' side has been asked, on the record, in front of a federal magistrate, to explain how Stefon Diggs and Christopher Blake Griffith even knew each other in the first place. And Stefon Diggs' team tried to slide it in as acquaintances. Acquaintances. The judge looked at that answer and said no. Acquaintances is not a full response. The court wants specifics. How did you meet? Where did you meet? When did you meet? Who introduced you? What was the nature of the relationship? Because acquaintance is the kind of word people use when the truthful word would sink them. And the court knows it. And the court just gave Stefon Diggs a deadline to try again. Try again with more specifics. Try again with a real answer. Because acquaintance is not going to fly in the federal record. And whatever the truthful answer is, whatever the real word is that Stefon Diggs is scared to put in writing, that is the word that turns this entire case. Let me tell you the second thing that is not adding up on Stefon Diggs' side of this ledger. Cardi B. I know she has already exited stage left, but rewind the tape 6 months. When the assault story first went national, Cardi B stood on the internet and defended Stefon Diggs with the ferocity of a lioness. She called Christopher Blake Griffith a light-skinned lizard. She called him a snitch. She called him a man with no morals. She unloaded on him in defense of Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs let her do it. He let his pregnant girlfriend become his human shield in a legal war she had no business being in. That is not love. That is deployment. And now that Cardi B has read enough of the docket to smell the smoke, she has quietly deleted him. Deleted the photos. Deleted the couple posts. Blocked the tag. Sprint. Cinderella. Sprint. And I truly hope, Cardi B never lets another man use her platform as a bulletproof vest again. Now let me get to the part that is going to make some of you laugh, some of you gasp, and some of you type me an entire essay in the comments. Whatever Christopher Blake Griffith took out of Stefon Diggs' house that weekend, if he took anything at all, he was owed it. Let me say that again for the cheap seats. He was owed it. Because the second a grown man is taking another grown man on shopping sprees the way Stefon Diggs was reportedly bankrolling Christopher Blake Griffith, the transaction has stopped being generosity and started being a contract. And Stefon Diggs did not want to talk about the terms of the contract. Real men do not underwrite the wardrobes of other grown men. Real friends invest in your career, they do not invest in your chain. And Stefon Diggs was allegedly buying chains. Custom chains. One-of-one chains. The kind of chains Beyoncé and Jay-Z might match on a red carpet. Do with that information what you will. But I will say this. The receipts for those shopping sprees are going to show up in discovery eventually. And when they do, we will finally understand what Stefon Diggs was actually paying for. Meet me in the replies. I want your verdict on that one specifically. Are we saying it out loud, or are we going to keep pretending? Because pretending is what got Cardi B tricked in the first place. Pretending is what let the entourage rewrite the room. Pretending is what has been dragging this case out for years. And I am not in the pretending business. I am in the receipts business. Back to the docket. Because the next thing the court is watching for is the timeline. Griffith says the alleged assault took place on the weekend of May 20th through the 23rd. Griffith says he flew in. Griffith says he stayed on the property. Griffith says Stefon Diggs made a physical advance. Griffith refused. Griffith says he was struck. Griffith says that 7 days later, Stefon Diggs' brother Darez and others jumped him in Los Angeles as a message. Griffith says all of it on the record, under penalty of perjury. Now, the court has told Griffith, prove the flight. Prove the hotel. Prove the timeline. Fine. Griffith does not appear to have a problem with that, because the receipts back him up. If they did not, his lawyers would be filing motions to stall. They are not stalling. They are producing. That tells you everything. And the flip side is even louder. Stefon Diggs' lawyers are stalling on their own clients' disclosures. The party stalling is the party sweating. And here is where the case pivots. Because everyone in the media keeps framing this as he said. It is not. It is he said, plus the hotel that already paid, plus the brother who already paid, plus the DM history the court just demanded, plus the financial records Stefon Diggs will not produce. That is not 50-50. That is one side building a fortress of paper and the other side sending in the lawyers to hide the paper. And the sports writers covering this, bless their hearts, do not understand federal civil procedure. They see one headline about the accuser turning over DMs and they call it a twist. It is not a twist. It is compliance. Compliance is not a twist. Refusal is the twist. And Stefon Diggs is the one refusing. Now I want to bring Bianca Bonney back into the story for a minute, because you cannot understand this case without understanding the pattern. Bianca Bonney, the mother of Stefon Diggs' first child, has, over the years, been reported to have squared up with almost every woman Stefon Diggs was publicly linked to. Almost every one of them. And she was, by most public accounts, effective. She scared off starlets. She scared off influencers. She scared off models. But there was one woman Bianca Bonney could not scare off. One. I am not going to name her here. You already know who I mean if you have been watching this show. But the fact that there is one woman even Bianca Bonney backed away from tells you the depth of the entanglements around Stefon Diggs. Cardi B walked into a house that already had ghosts in every closet. She just did not know it. Now she does. And Bianca Bonney, quiet as she has been lately, is watching this docket with the same expression the rest of us are watching it with. The "I told you so" expression that grown women wear when the paperwork finally catches up to the man they warned you about. And that is why I keep saying the yes men circle around Stefon Diggs is the real story here. His mother, his brother, his entourage, the chain-carrying, ride-along, get-paid-to-be-quiet crew that surrounds every high-paid athlete in this country. That circle enables the behavior. That circle covers the tracks. That circle rewrites the room. That circle is now on the hook, because federal discovery does not care how loyal you are. It cares what documents you have in your phone. And the discovery orders are widening. Every single person who was in that Maryland house on the weekend of May 20th through 23rd is now a potential deponent. Every single person who was on the phone with Stefon Diggs that weekend is now a potential witness. Every single person who touched a wire transfer between Stefon Diggs and Christopher Blake Griffith is now a potential paper trail. And loyalty does not survive a subpoena. Let me remind you of what the judge has done in the last 30 days. The judge denied Stefon Diggs' sanction request. The judge ordered Stefon Diggs to explain the nature of his relationship with Christopher Blake Griffith beyond the word acquaintance. The judge ordered the accuser to comply on DMs and travel records, which he is doing. The judge is running the docket like a chess grandmaster, and Stefon Diggs is losing pieces. Not dramatically, not loudly, piece by piece. And by the time we get to trial, if there is a trial, Stefon Diggs' side is going to be sitting behind a table with almost nothing left to move. That is how these cases end. Not with a bang. With a slow, patient, deliberate procedural asphyxiation. And Stefon Diggs is being asphyxiated in slow motion in front of a national audience that thinks it is watching a sports story. It is not a sports story. It is a courtroom story with an NFL uniform draped over it. Here is what the sports press will not tell you. Because the sports press is busy hyping the Patriots season and pretending Stefon Diggs' off-field drama is a distraction. It is not a distraction. It is the story. Stefon Diggs' contract, Stefon Diggs endorsements, Stefon Diggs brand, Stefon Diggs post-career broadcasting deals. All of that lives or dies on the outcome of this Maryland courtroom. And every ruling that goes against Stefon Diggs shaves a decimal point off his market value. Cardi B knew that too. Cardi B has a business. Cardi B has an album. Cardi B has children. Cardi B did the math, and Cardi B walked. Grown woman decision. Painful, but correct. And the fact that Cardi B walked before the trial docket even heated up tells you what Cardi B saw when she read the papers. Her legal team was probably showing her behind the scenes. Cardi B is not a lawyer, but Cardi B has lawyers. And those lawyers read the same docket we are reading. And those lawyers told Cardi B what we are telling you tonight. Now let me answer the question I keep getting in the comments. Kiki, why do you keep saying both men are lying? Baby, listen. Because both of them are. Stefon Diggs is lying about the nature of the relationship. Christopher Blake Griffith is likely